Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to season 2 of Legacy's Journey, where we talk about leaving behind a legacy for your business. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies. And we do that through using CFO services and consulting. Now, I told y'all it's season 2. And so, we had amazing guest season 1, but I wanted to take it to an even greater level. This is the road to $1 million agencies. These are people who are either have already made $1 million or are really, really close. Because we want to give you guys value. We want to bring on people who are already doing this at a high level. So that way, along your journey, you get to skip some speed bumps. And so, I put out feelers. I had to let the network know. And one guy, which I don't even know why I didn't think about it, was like, I ran a whole company before, right? Before the current successful one. And I was like, you know what? That's right. That's you most definitely did that. So why not bring him on so he can tell you the good, bad, and ugly, what he learned from it, and how he's completely rebuilt the company the second go round and is doing it at an even higher level without none of the stress. Ladies and gentlemen, we call him Buzz, but the official name is Michael Bazinski. And I'm going to let him introduce himself. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm Buzz. Is that a good enough intro?
I can't do too much laughing, man. I'm not feeling right, so you can't.
Well, you're
see. This is what happens. So every time we're in the same place, this is what happens. Every time we're in the same place, Buzz says stuff, I laugh. So this is probably going to be funny, but you're going to get a ton of value. As usual, I'm going to be taking my notes. Y'all always know I take my notes. So when he drops gems, he's going to drop plenty. So I'm going to give y'all the heads up in advance. He's going to drop them. I'm going to recap them for you because I don't want y'all to miss nothing. Now, Buzz, let's jump into it. So tell the people who you are, name of the company, how long you've been in it, and then we're going to jump into it.
All right. Yeah. Well, you already told everybody I'm Michael Bazinski. Everybody calls me Buzz. And I've been marketing for 30 years. I started as a teenager. So I guess like longer than 30 years now. Jeez Louise. Anyway, I digress. So I was in the Air Force for 10 years. And after I got out of the Air Force, I was unemployable because I flew on a plane called AWACS, and I did computer work on 1984 technology. So nobody needed my expertise on 1984 bubble memory and CPU technology. So my second love and what I had been doing for a long time, I was a part-time working musician for 15 years. So I started out in jazz when I was 13 years old. And migrated to rock and roll by the time I was 16 and working bands up until I was 28. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was always have a recording studio. So I opened up a recording studio in Anchorage, Alaska, of all places, and was going to my dream was to build a destination studio. So my humble beginnings, first year, I brought in $72,000. And I paid myself a whopping $22,000 to live off of. So I quickly realized that, living off of starving musicians was a bad business plan. So I pivoted that into a media production house. And one of my loves was marketing in the past. And I always loved working with small businesses over corporate and big entity stuff, enterprise stuff. And so I just started doing media production for small businesses. And over the years, that grew into what we call a creative agency. So we married my marketing prowess with the media production that my company was providing, and BuzzBiz Creative it was the end result to that. And we grew that into a multi-million-dollar creative agency. My last facility was like 13,000 square feet at about 22 employees. We serviced about 300 companies a year. And we were one of the big dogs in Alaska. And we were going up against generational in marketing agencies. So these are folks that, my dad's age started these agencies. So before I was born, these agencies existed in Alaska. And about 2018, I realized that I had basically built myself a job. I didn't actually own a company. The margins were super razor thin. I was actually not even paying myself as much as some of my employees. And I was the CEO.
Was this on purpose?
Huh?
This was
Did I
on
do that on
purpose?
purpose? Well, I did it well, my strategy, bad strategy. So don't take this, don't write this one down, but write this down on the things not to do. Okay. So
Okay. Okay.
I was paying some people more than myself because of their expertise and the upside of what I saw. So everything I was doing was in the growth mode, not in a profit mode. So we were leveraged to the hilt, the whole 9 yards, to have a state-of-the-art facility, get all the amenities for everybody, be super happy. We had a super awesome culture. It was a great place to work. But then I realized that people are great until they're not. And some of my biggest culture champions became my biggest culture warriors, enemies, I should say. So my champions became enemies when it came to culture overnight, seemingly. I won't go into the gory details of that, but what I realized is that I basically built a house of cards on the shoulders of folks that really didn't care about my business. And so and I sat in my foyer going, I could dig myself out of where I was at and actually make it profitable. But it was going to take another 5 years of that same grueling, maybe 5-10 years of the same grueling tempo that I was accustomed to. I was working 50, 60 hours a week minimum, right? As a CEO, I shouldn't be working that much, right? Especially when we've been in business for 13 years, especially when we're doing multi-million-dollar revenue years, okay? So I just sat there and I go, you know what? Doing the same thing over and over again is the definite, and expecting different results is the definition of insanity, says Albert Einstein, right? So I decided that we have to do this completely different. So I told everybody, hey, listen, guys, we're going to close the doors on this $14,000 a month nut, which is a building. That's how much it costs to have the building a month. That was my overhead just to have the building. That wasn't the $1 million worth of payroll I paid out every year. It was just to have a building for them to come to. And I said, you know what, guys, we're all going to work from home. If you guys want to, I'm going remote. Then this is 2018. So remote working and remote companies weren't a thing yet. But I was like, I have to get out of under all this overhead, because this overhead was eating away at all of my profitability and my ability to even pay myself what I was actually worth as a CEO. So unfortunately, or fortunately, most everybody said, no, we're going to go find other jobs. Great. Have a nice day. And there are people who are not made for remote work, and there's other people who are not made for office work. And that's just the way that was. So I went from 13,000 square feet down to 1,300 square feet, and one person in the office, and everybody else was remote. And then about 7 months after that, I actually got that down to 500 square feet. And then after that, I went into a co-working space, and have been in co-working space and home office ever since. So 2019, I started Buzzworthy Integrated Marketing, which is now called Buzzworthy Marketing. And since then, we have grown it. It's not into the 7 figures quite yet, but guess what? I'm 7 times more profitable than I was as a multi-million-dollar company while being in the mid to high 6 figures. So I'm making 7 times as much money, bringing in a quarter of what I was making in gross sales.
I'm making my notes because we're going to come back to that right there. 7 times more profitable with a smaller company. All right, continue.
So my goal is to build a $10 million company with 25 people, all remote. Serving professional services companies like yourself. And at a profit of at least a net profit of at least 15%. That's after my salary.
Okay.
I need to pay myself
all right.
enough money that if I took the 15% instead of running the company, I could take that money and pay it to somebody else to run it. So basically hire another CEO.
Okay. All right, now there's a lot there. See, I told y'all. I told y'all. He gonna make you laugh. Then he gonna say something real deep like that. This is what he does 24/7. He gonna say something super deep. Then he gonna laugh for the rest of the time like he didn't say that, but he just did. All right, let me hit the notes. So to recap, you see, I told y'all we're gonna bring people that's not new to this. He true to this. He been in the game, 30 some years marketing, started his company. Now he said in 2018, 13,000 foot building, 33 employees, but he wasn't as profitable. What are some things you would say that led you to not being as profitable, even though to everybody else, oh man, you have this huge building and you got 33 employees and you must be killing it. I know you said the building in and of itself, high overhead, paying 33 people, but outside of that, what would you say are some of the things that set that up to not be profitable? Because I'm sure on the second round, you're like, nope, I'm not even going to do ABC.
So one of the things that set it up was that we were on a hyper, it took me 11 years. So I started the business in 2005 to give you perspective. Okay. So there's the 2005 to 2018. That's the 13 years span that we're talking about in the buzz biz era. Okay. And it took me the first 11 years to get to 1 million. Year 12, we did 1.8 million. Year 13, no, I'm sorry, 10 years. I'm sorry, I had that backwards. So 10 years, first million. We did 1.1 million at the 10-year mark. That's how long it took. 18 months later, we hit our $2 million mark. So trajectory was like that, boom, straight up. We're like, man, we're taking over the world. But I was in about 5,500 square feet tops. No, 3,500 square feet. I'm sorry, 3,500 square feet plus some storage and stuff like that. So, and we are a production house, so creative agency just doesn't sit on computers. We have video rooms and print shops and duplicators and all these other things that need space. And we were growing so fast, run out of space. And so my lease was coming. Actually, my lease was a long-term lease, but I was like, I'm going to get choked out and I'm going to lose the cohesiveness of people not being in the same place. And because we had already gone through that when we lost a lease, long story short, our first lease, we actually lost it because they tore the building down. They're like, so this building's not going to be here, so you can't be here either at the end of our first lease. So it was like, okay, we got to go find it. But we couldn't find anything. So like for 6 months, we were in 2 different places downtown, which basically created this divide amongst the company because it wasn't cohesive. People didn't see each other every day, right? And so when I decided to make this leap, I just assumed, well, if it was 18 months to 2 million, it's going to be another 18 months to, or maybe even less, to 3 million, right? Because we're only looking, doubled in 18 months. Oh, it'll probably only take us 9 to 12 months to do another million, or 50% more than what we're doing today, right? And so I had that misnomer of the linear growth trajectory versus the entrepreneurial growth roller coaster. That was my first mistake. And so I acted on that. I acted on linear projections. And therefore, I spent like $20,000 to get out of a lease in a space that we didn't fit into anymore. And then spent another $250,000 building out the 13,000 square foot facility. So we had a nice facility for everybody to be at. And it was gorgeous. Glass walls, you name it, we had it. Boom, boom, done. Okay. And about a year and a half into it, it was just like, wait a second. This is not, the growth was getting stagnant because we're in a small market, right? And the marketing realm in 18 wasn't as remote as it is today. So people still liked to see their marketers. So it was still quite localized comparatively. And this is back in 2015, 2016, right? So and another thing was that talent. I couldn't get enough talent to come to Alaska. And all of the talent that was in
Alaska snap. This whole time I'm thinking you meant you were in the Midwest. So Okay, this makes
You're
more
in
sense because you were in
Alaska.
Alaska.
Yes. So it's not like I could just
Okay.
sit there. Like right now, I'm in Springfield, Illinois. I can go down to St. Louis. I can go up to Chicago, go to Indianapolis. I can get places pretty quick. And when they say, "Oh, you're in Springfield, you're only an hour and a half to 5 hours away," who cares, right? But nowadays, nobody cares where I'm at. When I moved from Alaska, I didn't lose any of my clients that I had at the time at all because they didn't need me to be in their place. Right? If you're doing your
Right.
job well as a marketer, unless you're doing like physical production, like video production, audio, like in-person stuff, photography, those types of things. Yeah, you're going to be where the business is at. Right. But, I have a plumber in California. I've got a med spa in Alaska. I've got a dental group in Virginia. I've got clients in Florida, New York, California, or not California, I already said California, Washington State. I mean, they're all over the place, right? We don't care, right? Once we find out where you're at, we just take a look at the demographics of your area, obviously, and all the indicators for that, depending on what type of service you have. But they don't. Right now, me and you are meeting, and we're in two different states.
That is fair. And I didn't even care. I'm just happy to see you.
I was sad that you didn't go to TNC this year, so I could see you there.
I thought about it because I went, I guess it was in 2022,
Okay.
but we just have so much going on with what we're doing for clients. It's year
Oh, January is
end,
horrible.
it's
Yeah, when
trying
you
to get
moved
these
it to January,
projections
I'm
and
sure you were
goals.
just like, "What?"
Yeah, I was like, y'all, out of all the times you can do this. I mean, we could have done it. The team could have handled it, but I was like, nah. So yeah,
No worries, no worries. We digress.
that's terrible. Plus, I've never been to Vegas.
Mm. Gosh, you got to go to Vegas. Jeez Louise. You would have had to spend two
That's what
weeks in
everybody
Vegas to
says.
get Vegas down. And nothing happens good when you stay in Vegas for 2 weeks. So
Mm. Okay, we're gonna switch that subject now. Going back to the notes. All right, so that's why you had the big company. That's what you think. These are things I could have tweaked. Now, bringing it to today's version, you said you are 7 times more profitable with a much smaller company, not even the same amount of team members. And we won't talk about the goals because I mean those are great. But I think what the audience would be, what they would get more value from is make it make sense to us, Buzz. If you were at the $2 to $3 million mark
Mhm.
and you're not there, you're at the we'll just round up and say 750 to almost $1 million mark.
Mhm.
How can you be more profitable making less money? And your response will be
Overhead, straight up overhead. One of the best books I read as I was reorganizing my company was Profit First by Michael Michalowicz. That book right there changed
that's a popular
my
one.
life because it helped me understand money as it flows through a business, cash flow. I never understood cash flow. I have a degree in business management, right? And I did corporate accounting and all that stuff, and that was actually uh, my worst class. I think I got a C in that one. It just didn't make sense. It wasn't real math to me, tangible. I'm a cash basis kind of guy, right? But that's what Profit First allowed me to do is understand my money in a cash basis. And that if we can, if you're not familiar with Profit First, it's kind of is it like Mike Clark or Dave Clark, one of those financial guys who says, get the wallet, all the little envelopes and you put your budget for each of them in the envelopes, right?
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey. Thank you very much. So Clark and Ramsey, I always get the two mixed up. So it's the same concept where it's like, hey, listen, if you put your profit, when you take money in, whatever you said your profit's going to be, you put that into a bank account or a wallet. And then, of course, anytime you pay profit, that means you're going to pay taxes. So you put another wallet for taxes and another wallet for your payroll and another wallet for your operations and another wallet for your marketing. And there you go. Now you live off of each of those for each of those reasons. So I can only pay myself what's in my payroll. I can only spend on operations what's in my operations account. Right. And that right there was a huge turnaround because it allowed me to reverse engineer my pricing. And so one of the things that really helped was we weren't charging what we were worth. And we were being sympathetic to our target market rather than helping our target market understand our worth. And therefore, we were billing at what we thought they would pay versus billing what we knew we were worth. And so my rates tripled. And nobody batted an eye when it came to the new clients. And I shed all but 12 of my old clients because we had over 280 companies that didn't understand the value we brought. And to raise the prices by even double was unfathomable for them. They couldn't even imagine why they would pay twice as much for the same service. And that was our fault because we told them what it was worth. We were charging $500 for $1,500 of the work. And so when you do that, when you go through all of that and take out all of the overhead, man, 7 times as much profit kept. That's money I'm keeping, right? At a quarter of the revenue. It all compounds really fast.
Okay. Now there's a lot he just said right there.
Okay, I'll let you cut that down.
Now, yeah, because we got to pause because I don't want them to be lost. So essentially, and this is something that we help our people with. So there are multiple ways to be profitable. Some people's default is they just think cut, which he did that. And we agree with that to a certain extent because you can only cut so much. But like in his case, hey, let's cut overhead. Like we don't need this huge fancy building. So bam, automatic more money. But then something very key he said was, okay, it's time to up our prices because why? We've been in the game for X amount of time. We know our value. We're getting our clients results. Now, this is where I want you to go back to because I think this may be all the courses will say it's a mindset issue, abundance or scarcity. But you said that you were willing to double or triple prices, knowing that there were going to be some people that were going to be like, I can't do it, my guy. How did you get to that point? Because I'm sure, to your point, well, I'm trying to rebuild. I need to try to keep as much as I can. I got a team. I got my own goals. I got the amount of money I want to make. So what helped you to say, you know what? I'm going to do it, and it's going to be what it's going to be.
So it came to the first thing is I knew that the majority of them, not just some, but the majority of the clients were going to be shed. And for many reasons, I didn't renew some clients. I was like, I don't want that client anymore. Right. At one point I thought, well, maybe I'll just have a lifestyle business. Right. And I'm like, I'm just going to take the business that I can handle myself. And I'll have a couple of contractors help me with a couple other things. And that was it. Right. So I went all the way back down to solopreneur mentality and worked my way back up into the entrepreneur that I am. I can't do it. It lasted like 2 weeks. I was like, I don't want to sit in front of the computer. I used to love to sit in front of the computer and create things. But the problem is that as a solopreneur, it's tiring because then you still have to do the business. Right. And that's what kind of drove me into my entrepreneurialism to the begin with, because I would work a 16-hour day so that I could get all the creative done and the business, because you have to do the back end, the sales, and all the other things, right? And so I wish I could tell you that I just sat there one day in resolute manner and said, this is what I'm going to do. And here we go. Like I was scared just like everybody else. I'm like, how am I going to pay my bills? I had a mortgage by then, the whole thing, I was like, right. One of the things I had to do personally is actually go through a bankruptcy because some of my business tidings were tied to my personal credit, and I couldn't pay out those debts when downsizing. Right. So there was a lot of pain. and a lot of fear. At one point, I thought I was just going to go and get a job as a CMO at a medium-sized company and go, why am I worried about it? Then, of course, my fiance, my wife now, my fiance at the time's like, you're not a CMO. You're an entrepreneur. Yeah, you can be a fractional CMO for people, but you don't clock in at 9. You don't. It's just not how
It's
you
not
roll.
the real
Like,
you.
you don't stop thinking about
Right.
your business because you love doing business so much. You love the business part of it, and so it became a culmination, to answer your question, of just little mini iterations. Like I told you, we went down to 1,300 square feet. I didn't even believe in my own self that, or even understand what a fully remote company looked like, because I was going from a traditional business model to what was really just kind of underground before COVID, right? Nobody understood it. Nobody had a lot of references on how to do that and how much to do it, right? Now, I don't have an actual physical building anywhere. I have I have 2 desks, one in 2 different co-working spaces, and then my office is at my home, and that's it, right? And I didn't even understand that until I moved to Springfield, Illinois, when we moved away from Alaska in 2000, later in 2019, right? So you're not going to get to that point where it's like, oh, this is it. You're going to go, okay, let me double my prices and see how many people say yes. And then you're going to get 2 or 3 yeses on that are going to be too easy. And you're going, oh, that's not quite enough. So you get another 50% up on top of that. And then you keep increasing until you get enough no's to go, okay, we found out where our ceiling is. Okay. Until you start getting those yeses too easy because you've gotten so good at it, at providing that value at that level, that confidence comes out when you're talking about your pricing. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that you have to be confident that you can provide the value you're going to charge. You don't just sit there and go, I think I'm worth $5,000 a month, right? That's why you have to back that up with something. And it's not just, oh, I've been in marketing for 30 years. It's, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and we should see A, B, C. And you and I are going to go through this DEF journey together, ... And this is what the outcomes are going to look like. And then they look at that and go, yep, I share your value with that. And that's how much, and that's why you can charge that much. Hope that answered your question.
Okay, because see, the way you said it, it was more like I just decided to boss up one day and I was like, we tripling prices on everybody.
At the
But to
first, I
your
did
point,
do
I think that is
I did
very
do double right at the beginning. Right at the beginning, I said, there's no way I can handle that many. Because I was looking at, like, half of our clients were paying us like $500 a month to be their consultant, like their marketing consultant. And that had no boundaries. Our scope of works were way too wide, right? And $500 a month. And even if you just talk to me for an hour a week, I'm losing money, right? Because as a solopreneur, you got to be worth much more than $125, right? Now, if as an employee, yeah, $125 an hour for sure, right? I pay my consultants something like that. No problem, right? Because that's all they're doing. But when you're the person that's running the company and doing the sales and doing the consulting, yeah, you're worth like 4 times that, right? And so you really have to find, reverse engineer, what does it cost to do business? And then how much is that service, that value you bring to your client, worth to the end user, your clients, right? And that's when you start getting to that value-based pricing. But to get started, I just did it by how much does it cost to do the business? What resources am I going to need to carry that out? And that's, softwares and infrastructure and maybe employees and stuff like that. And then what markup do I want above and beyond that after taxes? And that's how I started. And then from there, created more and more value.
okay. So I think some very key things to take from there is he did it scared, but he did it. And I think a lot of times as business owners, we always get kind of caught up in like, oh man, we should just do it just because, and it's going to be so easy. But I think you can see like he had to make that choice. Did it cost him some short-term pains and make him deal with some hard consequences? Yeah. But on the other side of it, I'm just saying, who doesn't like 7 times more profit? I'm just saying. All right, let's move that one on. So there was a lot there. We didn't even really get into our questions. That's good. Okay, I would say, what was it like when you made your first sale? But I think at this point, tell me about your biggest sale and the emotion surrounding it. So, you had the big company, over 2 million. You rebrand. Now you're starting to back up. You're getting the momentum. Your recent most biggest sale and why it's important.
There's a couple that happened the last 18 months. And this all came from when I went from an integrated marketing firm to a strategically forward marketing firm. And that's when we dropped the integrated and the buzzworthy integrated marketing. And so I have been moving towards just really focusing on fractional chief marketing officer, fractional CMO services. So strategy. Okay. And kind of moving away from that fulfillment side. Now we still have fulfillment, but we're focused on the strategy first, right? And so I wrote a book during COVID called The Rule of 26. And that was all about strategy and bringing the strategy down to 3 objectives. And the best day I had, I was actually at a mastermind. Where was I? I can't remember where I was, but anyway, I was at a mastermind, and I got a call from a lady who heard me on a podcast, heard about the book. Her husband read the book. He got excited about it. So she got excited about it. And they signed on for a $90,000 retainer for 12 months. And it only took me 2 hours of talking with her on the phone for her to be convinced that that was the right move for her business. That's pretty good.
Okay, well, let's make sure we shout the book out again.
On people that want to do search marketing and they only spend maybe $1,500 a month. This woman was going to be spending $7,000 a month, $7,500 a month, right? Okay.
All right, so tell them the name of the book.
The book is called The Rule of 26. We've got a copy of it right here. For those on video, there you go.
He has a copy in case you can't see and you're listening just the audio.
A free copy. Actually, I'm co-authoring different versions of this book now. So this one is for professional services. That's who I deal with, professional service providers. A lot of them in financial. And but I just finished one for safety industry businesses, and working on one with another fractional CMO and marketing consultant on nonprofits. She only works with nonprofits. And so we're talking about writing one for her for that. My first one, he just gave me a call yesterday and said that, hey, by the way, I just got my second consulting client, fractional CMO client, just like I explained to you, from my book. And we launched that book 5 months ago. So he's gotten basically $180,000 worth of contracts in the last couple months from doing that. But my second best was just a couple months ago when I had a dental group out of Virginia had saw me on Digital Marketer on the directory there, saw that I was strategist, read the book cover to cover. It's only like 110 pages. And then gave me a call. A half an hour into the conversation, he says, yeah, let me sign up. He'll be another $90,000 a year in fees for everything we're going to be doing with them. So those two right there are the big ones.
Okay, so do you think that maybe, I guess we would call that being the authority in your industry. So you think that can be done in multiple ways, but let me not ask that because that's duh. Do you think being an author can land you deals like this if done correctly?
If done correctly, yes, 100%. Being an author got me on 100 different podcasts in the first year as a guest. And we tracked at least $350,000 worth of new contracts in that first year. So I was in 2021. So I'm just giving you highlights of the two
Okay.
biggest ones, right? And those were in the same.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because I think until you are aware of what the possibilities are, that's why we like to ask this question. Because some people may be like, "Dang, I'm never going to make more than a 10K. That's my highest ticket." No, like he's literally told you, "This is what I did. It landed me this kind of deal." You have to do it right. You have to do it with a spirit of excellence. You have to have a plan, a strategy. How's it going to fold into what you do? But it is
Mhm.
possible to have deals like this. So that's a great answer. Okay. Now you
And then
talked about your
then
team a
one of
little
the
bit.
things before you move on, one of the things we're doing with the Rule of 26 is helping other marketing consultants utilize my concept for their businesses, because I can't help all of the SMEs and SMBs in the United States, right? So, and the Rule of 26 is easy enough for anybody to utilize. They just need to tie their name to it, right? And so that's what I'm starting to help. That's kind of my legacy. When we talk about legacy, it's like that's one of my legacies is actually helping the next wave of marketers take what I have created for themselves and create their own legacies through it without having to come up with something completely new and drudging through all the stuff that I had to drudge through.
There you go. Okay. Okay. All right. Now you talked about your team. Now you just said, or at the beginning, you talked about having a team of 33 people. Now your current team size is how many?
My current team size right now is at 10. But the but
Okay. Tell us differences. Like,
the big
oh
difference
boy.
is this. I don't hire on a set amount of hours every week anymore. So we used to hire part-time at 20 hours a week or full-time at 40 hours a week, 35 to 40 hours a week. Now I hire on
Mm-hmm.
demand. So if I have hours for you this week, then you get them. If there are no hours, then you don't get paid anything, right? Now, we do most of our business is on monthly recurring revenue, so retainers, right? So we can give them a rough estimate of how many hours they're going to get, but say they don't do a good job on an account and the account goes away, they lose those hours until we replace them through their sales. So now they have just as much vested interest in keeping that client happy as we do. When I had employees, going back and doing some of the forensic stuff, because that's another whole nother thing right there. The downfall of BuzzBiz. It was the transition, I should say. But what I saw when I went back and looked at, the history of what was going on with accounts, you had employees just sitting there doing their own thing. They weren't even doing the work that we were paying them to do. And they didn't care. They had a job, right? Yeah.
What do you mean they didn't care?
They just didn't care. Not everybody's a good employee. And I didn't have
Oh.
I wasn't the one doing all of the hiring on my company anymore. At that point, I had a operations manager. They hired. We had department managers. They interviewed and hired. But I didn't trust. I trusted but didn't verify. I didn't have checks and balances in my business, right? And so now as we're building this out, we're just doing it with somebody that we had to let go today or yesterday because they were not communicating. And then we went back into our project management system and found out that the guy was just punching hours in and not really doing work, right? And so now we're, as we get bigger, we find checks and balances and assign those checks and balances to people in a hierarchy of my business. So there's two of us that are just about full time. Everybody else is part-time, 15, 20 hours a week. And most of them are lifestyle employees. They don't want full-time, which is great because that means I can get 2 employees at the cost of 1 full-time employee. And the reason it's not no difference in money, but it has a difference in diversity of workforce. So if one goes away, I still have another one that can pick up the slack. Somebody gets sick, they go on vacation. Maybe they go find another job. Maybe they decide to go back to the office instead of working remotely. But in marketing, there is a whole ecosystem of employees out there looking for remote part-time work. for whatever reason, they're parents, single parents, or stay-at-home parents, or they can't. I have one of my employees has fibromyalgia, so she can't work more than about 20 hours a week, and she's in a position to where if she's sick, we don't lose traction on anything as far as clients. She's not client-facing, right? So it gives me a lot of flexibility without the cost, and it gives my team members flexibility in how they work. Whole different mindset.
Okay. All right. So being a really cutting edge company in regards to structuring hours, lifestyle, work-life balance, etc. Okay, I like it. Now, let's talk about that. So now you've grown your team. Now I know you're a super numbers guy because I've seen like some of your spreadsheets and they are very, very good. Now, what are some cool things? No, you know what? I'm not even gonna ask you that question. I'm gonna switch it. Okay, best investment to date that's yielded the most ROI.
In the new iteration, the best investment that created the highest ROI has been books. Books and mastermind.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought you would have went that route. Okay, I see why you said that though.
I mean, that education is so important. Continually learning how to better yourself. So I read a book called from Gino Wickman called Traction. He talks about the entrepreneurial operating system, right?
I've heard of this book.
Yeah. And so I actually had him on my podcast, and we talked about his new 7 principles of highly effective leadership or something like that. And really good guy. Like, yeah, check out Gino Wickman. Great author, good businessman. But the crazy thing is that we implemented that over the last year, and it worked okay. For a small business with, just a couple, 10 of us, it was a little too much. Right. And then this, another guy named Ryan Diaz, he wrote a book called Scalable, and it is a different OS. He calls it the Scalable OS instead of the Entrepreneurial OS. And I was like, I already kind of have an OS for my business, operating system for my business, but I'm like, I'll go ahead and read. I know Ryan, so I'm like, okay, I'll read it for him, right? I get into it. I'm like already like 80% of the way through this book and going, oh, wow, I can take the things I really like Ryan said and meld it with the things I really like with Gino, and then trim the fat of the stuff that I don't think works for my situation and create my own EOS, right? The buzzworthy OS, right? And I think that time and those books, the investment of time and money between those two things in education, if you don't continually learn outside of your business, because you're learning doing business, obviously, you get the street smarts, but those book smarts and learning from other people consistently, sometimes it's just what not to do. I've read books. I'm like, we ain't doing that. That's not the way we like to do business, right? Like you read marketing books, right? Like, oh, you just got to do blah, 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 blah. We're like, not us, not my culture. It's not what we stand for, but great to know it's out there. So when people talk about it, I can talk with them about it and show them the contrast of how we do business versus those other mindsets. So education is the biggest investment and biggest payoff.
All right. So staying on education, what would you go back to before I go there? Education to the young marketing agency. So somebody that's, let's just say in their 20s, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they're 5 years or less. Top 3 things you would tell them not to do if they want to get to $1 million.
Okay, so don't diversify your offering until after you're at $1 million. So whatever, most marketers get into the business because they've done marketing for somebody else. They learn through an agency. They might have been, the de facto techie, so therefore marketing guru in a small business, the whole 9 yards, right? There's all sorts of ways we get into marketing. Whatever you're really good at and you're really passionate about, then you need to have both, right? You can't be good at it but not passionate about it, and you can't be passionate about it but not good at it. You got to have both. Otherwise, there's 100,000 people who will beat you every time, and you will always be playing catch up. Okay, so I'm going to give you that to start with. But whatever that is, you're good at it and you're passionate about it. Be good at that one thing and be passionate about that one thing for the type of people you are passionate about working with. So if there's an industry you're intimately, familiar with, the ins and outs, those whole 9 yards, stick there. There's plenty of business for you that can get you multi-millions of dollars. Got a friend, Qasim. He built a multi-million dollars. I want to say, I think a $10 million enterprise just working with private schools. But there was a Montessori schools. There's only 1,400 Montessori schools or something like that in the nation. He niched to those 1,400. I focused on those 1,400s, didn't serve those 1,400, right? Probably only 2 or maybe 300 of them out of the 1,400, which is a big chunk, but it's a market that nobody was touching. So he didn't have any competition. The only competition he had was their ability to invest in the marketing that he had to offer and mindset. That's a lot easier to deal with than 100 other, marketers all going for the same clients, right? So as a young person, find your niche, find your passion, find your skill set, focus on that before you start going too wide.
There you go, from a pro. Okay. Let's see. All right, we're getting close to end time, so we're going to go rapid fire here. All right. If you had to go back in time to college age you, knowing everything you know now, like you get 5 minutes to hop back in like the time travel portal or whatever, or in the multiverse, whatever you want to call it. You got 5 minutes. What are the main few things that you would tell your college version of yourself?
My earlier version of me, when I first got into business, I would tell them focus. Like I just told you guys, focus. Number 2, patience. And number 3, money. And I would tell them the importance of profit and be profit driven versus growth driven. And you can be, and you're going to be more profitable the more focused you are. And that no matter what you do, it all takes time.
Okay. All right. 2 or 3 things that you do consistently that you say would contribute to your success.
Reading, learning, teaching. I read consistently. Okay. I write consistently, which is part of my teaching. But you learn when you teach. I tell that to a lot of people. Like, you want to learn more? You're like, there's nothing out there. No, let's start teaching. You'll find some. Because people start asking you questions you never thought to ask.
Okay. Favorite thing to do during the week to connect with wifey?
With my wife?
Yep.
Okay. Favorite thing? Well, we cook. We're cookers. We're foodies. We like to cook. So she gets home from work. I unplug. We go into the kitchen. I'm the grill master. She's a sauce master. We both share the sauteing and other things. But yeah, we love to cook together.
Okay, there you go. There you go. All right. Last 2 questions. How has your definition of success changed from when you started Company 1 versus present day here in 2024?
Very good. Growth mindset versus profit mindset. Business mindset versus lifestyle mindset. So I'm going to explain that. So growth mindset, meaning that I just figured more money, you'll eventually become profitable, versus if you start with profit in mind, or profit first, if you will, and then scale the profitability of your business, you're going to create a lot more time for yourself. Okay. And that goes back to the business mindset of who I am as a businessman is my identity, versus being a businessman is something I do, but it's not my identity.
There you go. Okay. Last one. What has being a business owner taught you about yourself as a person?
That I'm the most impatient person in life. It's taught me how
Okay,
ADD I
that's
am
fair.
and unfocused I am. It's taught me a lot about leadership and how good a leader I am. And I have a very low, my wife will tell you, I have a low self-esteem. And that's rooted into things we don't have time to talk about today. But I do. I don't have a high personal persona of myself, right? I don't regard myself as, smarter than anybody else or anything like that. I just been doing the stupid stuff long enough to learn better. That's about it. And but I've learned now through that and in teaching people and learning from other people who have been doing it as long as I have that actually, no, I'm pretty darn good at what I do. I am an exceptional person. And that is something that I wouldn't have gotten had I stayed as an employee.
There you go. All right. Well, we know you got to go help more people. This is the end. But before we go, I want you to tell people how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in contact? Best platform? If you want to show the book again so they know where to get that, who you help, who you serve. This is your time to do all that.
Awesome. Great. If you want a copy of the book, I'm giving this away right now. Go to ruleof26.com. Just pay for the shipping and handling, and I'll give you a free copy. I'll even sign it for you. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, Michael Bazinski. Just look me up there. And then for who I serve professional services based businesses is my primary business with buzzworthy marketing. And so those are your CPAs, financial professionals, law, architects, you name it. If you're a professional serving other people, I'm helping those people. And then secondarily, I'm working with other marketers to help them have their own piece of authority, like the Rule of 26, specifically the Rule of 26, but with them as co-authoring for their industry and their niche. And you can reach out to me directly at buzzworthy.biz.
There you go. All right. Well, Buzz, I've enjoyed it. I think I learned a lot as well. Let me bring back up my notes. All right. Just to recap, went from 1,300 square feet building, 13,000, 33 employees, making over 2 million. Scrapped it because, hey, this isn't sustainable. So there's some self-awareness there, guys. I know it's really cute and it's cool to say, I want to make $1 million. But I think the main thing to get from what Buzz is saying is make sure you count up the cost. Make sure you build it right so that it's not a burden when you want it to be a blessing to you. Make sure you pick the right people, put them in the right seats. Make sure you structure your company in the way that works for you. Because just because it works this way for somebody else, just because he had 33 full-time employees, hey, he learned, hey, maybe I can cut some of that back. I can split it up, diversify so that we have more options. He talked about being more profitable focused, profit driven versus being just concerned about rapid growth and just more and more and more and more and more. And then picking the people to put in the right seats. So, with all that being said, Buzz, thank you again for coming. Guys, make sure you like this episode, share it. Anybody who you know that may be struggling with their business, like show them Buzz. Let them hear his story about it's okay to be able to tear it down and rebuild it from scratch and do it the right way, as long as you have the right goals and stuff in mind. So, this is season 2. We thank y'all again for listening. Like we told y'all, we're going to get the best. Can't wait to see y'all on the next episode. Until then, stay safe. All right. So I think you have to wait like 10 seconds, maybe.
I got to jump on